call the meeting to order. Will everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Publics Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meeting of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Cedar Grove Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be advertised by having the date, time, and place thereof posted on bulletin boards in the district, published and or transmitted to the Verona Cedar Grove Times and Star Ledger newspapers, tap into online news, filed with the township clerk, and posted on the district's website. Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Here.
Mrs. Miga.
Here.
Mr. Splendoria.
Here.
Mr. Schoner.
Here.
Mrs. Dye.
Here. The meeting is open to the public for comment on items on the agenda. Seeing none. Good evening, everyone.
Hello. Good evening.
Hello. How's everybody doing this evening?
Fantastic. Very good.
Glad to hear it. All righty, we'll get started because it doesn't look too long tonight, right?
No.
We have a
Not too bad.
presentation,
Sure
so.
do.
All right, committee reports.
So
Anybody go anywhere?
I went to the North End FSA meeting on the 14th, which I believe was Thursday. And they have a lot going on, a lot of great things going on. They had two presentations. Mrs. Masato started with just a reminder. She showed the parents the presentation she showed to all the kids, K through fourth grade, about being a, now I'm not going to think of the word. What's the social media? A good citizen on the social. So it's just
Digital
being
citizen,
a good
Digital
thank
citizen,
you,
right,
a
right.
good digital citizen. So we're starting it young. We're making sure all the kids know that when you are on social media, there's a time and a place for everything. So and the presentation was great. And she also was asking all the parents and the kids to remind them to maybe do less screen time. And I think it's good. It's a positive way of attacking stuff that we see happening with our kids, that they're on screen time so much, even in kindergarten. So, and then she also wanted to let everybody know to sign up for Remind, so that way you know if you have to return a book, you don't have to depend on your kindergartner to remind you. There's an app for that. And then we had a nice HIB presentation to kind of explain to us, the parents in North End, a high-level overview of what's HIB versus social conflict, or code of conduct, because at the younger ages, you do want to make sure that there's a difference and understand the difference between the two, and there's sometimes a fine line. Let me see. Mr. Featherman is going to be joining us at the North End FSA meeting on January 16th.
Details to follow. I know you.
Details,
you'll be hanging
yes.
out
It's
with
exciting. Very exciting. Conferences are ready for North End, so make sure if you didn't sign up, maybe call the school and try and get your conferences, because they start on Thursday.
Yes.
So, and be prepared with questions, because at North End you only have 20 minutes. So make sure if you have any questions, you have them. And then that's about it. Big fundraiser coming up. And I think the dates are to be determined.
North End has the.
North End is the big
fun-
fundraiser, but it's going to be a calendar raffle, so it's not going to be an event.
Okay.
But the dates for the calendar raffle are going to be determined in the future, near future.
Great. Okay.
That's it.
Thank you kindly.
I went to Southland FSA meeting last week, and they're doing a food drive for a local food pantry where you could drop the items off at the school. They also have, I thought this is really nice, they have a second grader who went to Mrs. DiMatteo, wanted to collect items for Hurricane Dorian victims in the Bahamas. So there's now a box at Southend School to drop off items, and that family will, I don't know, ship them or however they're doing that.
Right.
And their other big thing was their kindness wall.
Yes.
I don't know if
It
you've
looks
seen
great.
it on social
Yes.
media.
It looks great.
It's
Sticky notes.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's all those Post-it notes and it,
The whole.
who's happy for their dog, and some like their parents, and some like their siblings, and
They're young.
they're young.
right.
Yeah, they're young. They're young. So it's very nice. It's very nice.
You gonna do APT?
Sure.
And I also wanted to just remind people about the Cops versus the Kids game on Wednesday night. It's I don't want to call it a fundraiser. It's a community event. 6:30 at the Cedar Grove High School. And we also have the football game
Yes.
on Friday night
At
at the high school.
Rock
Rock
7
on.
o'clock, right?
At 7 o'clock.
Good luck, go Panthers.
Cheer on the Panthers. So that's it for me.
Nice.
I attended the high school APT meeting, and as Ms. Miga said, the 20th is the Cops versus Kids volleyball game. We also have the Brothers Grimm show coming up this weekend, it was originally supposed to be Friday and Saturday, but now it's been moved to Saturday and Sunday due to the football game. And the 8th grade orientation is December 11th at 6:30 p.m. And on December 17th is the winter concert. So,
Did you say 7 p.m. For 8th grade orientation?
6:30.
6:30.
6:30, December 11th, my anniversary. Tell my husband I
guess
know
I
what
need
we're
to
doing
attend
on
that.
our
Well,
Third and final time.
Yeah, it's-
You know?
the third one just gets.
Your first.
This is my first, so I'll be there. One thing I forgot, kindergarten registration will be opening in January 2020. Anybody with kindergartners out there, hold on to your hat, it's coming.
Wow.
Very nice. Well, and to round out the FSA meetings, I attended the middle school FSA meeting last week. Let's see some of the highlights. The Liberty Science Center came today to do a presentation on brains. Today's the 18th, right? For the 8th graders. I have not heard details on how that went, but I'm told it was supposed to be very interesting. Report cards came out last week. Conferences start on the 20th. TREPS will be March 1st with a snow date of March 8th, but it's not going to snow. And we were back at the high school this year because I think it just works better logistically. And esports is coming to the middle school. The FSA donated $5,500 to get the program off the ground, and it's going to be open to 8th graders. And the details will be following soon. So that's pretty exciting. Esports is a pretty popular thing, and I was asked when we will see that at the high school, and I told them I don't know. So
Frankly, neither do I, but
Exactly.
I'm sure it's coming.
Budget season is coming, I'm sure.
Yes.
But I will tell you that the film club, the art department, and Mr. Coster's STEM classes, they're going to be doing, the Garden State Film Festival is having an esports virtual reality seminar in Asbury Park, and they're making arrangements to take 30 kids down.
So maybe it's closer than we think.
Well,
It is closer than you think, yeah, to go down to get the whole seminar of what it's
Well,
about.
we've kind of set the bar every year for the past few years. We
Yes.
keep adding a technology class,
Yes.
so exactly.
Yeah.
And last year we added 2. Well, for this year.
Yes.
Right, so I'm sure there's something on the horizon.
Yes.
Exactly, so, all right. Anybody else attend anything else?
No.
All right, fantastic. So we're going to move on. Board presentation. We have Mr. Gallagher here to talk about his annual Washington DC trip.
Where's he going?
It's totally up to you.
We'll only say yes if you show us those pictures at night, you know, in DC.
I think he's got them.
I think he does.
Good evening, Mr. Featherman and members of the Board of Education. This will be our 9th Washington DC trip. And for the last 9 years, we've taken our AP classes who spent the bulk of their high school learning about history. We've added the Intro to Criminal Justice class, which is a dual enrollment class this year, to this. And my goal is to try and get a tour of the FBI building while we're down there, FBI headquarters. So what I'm asking you is to allow us to take these kids down there to expand and enhance their education. So this obviously is the White House. This is one of the highlights of the trip. We'll see they'll get to hopefully tour the White House and see where some of the most important decisions in the world have been made, and during their lifetime as well as previous to that, which built us to where we are today. Supreme Court building, a couple years ago, we were able to go in and actually, the justices came out and read a decision, and the kids got to hear them read the decision, and Justice Ginsburg read her dissent from the bench, which is odd. They don't generally do that, and so they were able to see the justices there and be able to do this. And as you see, nighttime pictures are always the best. Okay. We will also, that's the Iwo Jima Memorial. That's a little of a ride. We try and get there once. This is the Eternal Flame. When we go to Arlington National Cemetery, it's a 3-mile walk for them to start their day. And we get there and we do the tour of the Eternal Flame, and then we go on to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and the changing of the guard of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Last year, General Lee's house was under repair, so I didn't get a chance to see that. But to be able to see that and overlook Washington, D.C. from General Lee's house and see where, and you look at the headstones from Civil War era, and then you look at the headstones from the guys who are just in Afghanistan. And you know, and sometimes we have kids whose family members are buried there, and we'll go there. We did that to the Vietnam Memorial. One of the students' uncles was in Vietnam and died, and he actually took an etching off the wall, and that's you have to paper over it and you etch it, and then you have their name, and she was able to take that home. So this is a very moving experience to do this and to actually see and follow through with what they've learned. And two of the most stunning features of DC is obviously the Washington Monument, which has pretty much been closed 6 of the 9 years we've been going, for whatever reason. Hopefully it's open. And then you have Lincoln Memorial, which is really breathtaking at night when you go there because, one, it's less crowded, and two, your kids can actually sit where on the top of the steps and just overlook, and they can just like contemplate what they're looking at, and overlooking the reflecting pool, to the World War II Memorial, to the Washington Monument, and they can get a vision or a thought of standing where Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech, overlooking the reflecting pool and doing that. And then you have the World War II Memorial and the Vietnam Memorial. We'll walk and we'll do the Korean War Memorial as well. So my classes just did a presentation, or actually they all done papers. They each had to interview a veteran. And so they had to go find a veteran. And a lot of them did family members. So this will be much more, for them, it'll be much more personal for them because they've talked to someone who was in the war, either during World War II or Korea or Vietnam, or even during Iraq and Afghanistan. So when they go here, it has a more meaningful to them. And then obviously the museums. You have the Smithsonian's. Unfortunately, the museum, which is probably the greatest museum the kids love so much, we just found out is closing the end of this calendar year. And it was based on freedom of the press, so it was all the news in the United States going back all the way to when newspapers first came out. They had a wing just on the FBI investigations. They had a wing just on JFK. So they had, and it was all about freedom of the press, and for whatever reason, I don't know, they didn't make money. But at the end of this year, they're closing, so these kids won't get to see that. But they have an option to see all the Smithsonian's are free. This one on the bottom right is the African American Museum. It's only been open a couple years. Obviously, we have the Holocaust Museum. So the goal is we'll do our normal Amtrak. Amtrak, if we get the tickets early enough, it's only $54 each way. If we don't, it's like $200. So it's unbelievable. But we'll take Amtrak from Penn Station to Newark. We'll go down. We'll get out at Union Station, and then we'll take the Metro to L'Enfant Plaza, which is 2 blocks from our hotel. The hotel is the Holiday Inn Capitol, which is 2 blocks from the Air and Space Museum. So right pretty much centered of the mall. The kids can walk everywhere we have to go. As you see, there's a Starbucks in there, so that's all that's important to them. We do this, and we're out first thing in the morning, and the kids come back in time to change for dinner, maybe get an hour or so break, and then we're back out till 10, 11 o'clock at night. It's a constant on the go. The goal is every year to do the White House, tour of Congress, hopefully meet their congressperson. Hopefully we'd be able to get into the FBI national, their headquarters, and get a tour, and the Tomb of the Soldier in Arlington. Other than that, they pick what they want to do. 3 chaperones, myself, Mr. Vanderhorn, and Ms. Durso, so the kids can split up and go to different places if they want to. If someone want to do this museum, if someone want to do that museum, we can move around DC as we want, and then we just converge back together and stay as a group. It's a trip that every kid I've talked to that's taken down there, we've actually had kids go to college in DC because they went on this trip. Because they just fell in love with the city so much, they'd never been there before. Some of the things we do is it gives them an experience outside of school on public transportation. How to take a train, how to take a subway, those kinds of things, and how to read a subway map to figure out where you have to go, where you get off, and that stuff. These are things that we can't teach them in high school, but these are they're gonna have to know to get out. So I think it's an excellent opportunity for the kids to observe the government they've been learning about, as well as most of them, they'll all remember this trip for the rest of their lives. And thank you for letting me present this, and if you have any questions.
So,
No, you can't go.
Mr. Gallagher, do the kids meet at the high school and then bus it down, or is their responsibility to meet at Penn
The
Station?
parents carpool their kids to Penn Station. We're standing outside Penn Station waiting for them to get there.
gather
And then once
everyone
we're all
up.
together, I have the tickets. So once we're all together, we get on the train and we go down together. And when we get home, the parents pick them up from Penn Station.
Penn Station again. Okay, that was the question. Thank you.
When is the trip, Mr. Gallagher?
May 15th to the 19th. The last day of AP exams is the 15th, so we try and leave then. And those kids are pretty much burned out by then. It gives them a little decompression.
And so, and the kids that go to this are the in that AP program?
AP and dual enrollment classes.
Dual enrollment classes, right. Okay.
That's it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very
Thank you,
much.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thanks for doing this, by the way.
Yes.
I mean, this
Yeah.
is an incredible trip, a trip of a lifetime. I mean, DC is incredible.
Nick did it twice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's you know what, and this would be my 9th time going, and I would not refuse to do this trip again. It's a different group, you'll mix a couple kids and you go twice, but to see them down there and to see how much they get out of this trip and talk about it later, and when they do the critique, I have kids do a critique at the end of the year of my classes, and that's one of the things that the highlight of the year is that they were to go there and actually see where the suffragists fought, where they stood in front of the White House arguing for the right to vote.
Right.
Yeah.
And even though it's so highly compressed, it's still, you're maximizing it, the time period down there.
Right, and I think what they like the most is that they get to pick what they want to do.
Right.
I think we do 3 things.
Right.
Other than that, what do you want to do? And we'll see whatever you want in the city,
Right.
and we'll go almost anywhere.
Really?
That's great.
Yes.
When I was in
Great.
high school, we went in the 9th grade, and I still remember that trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A long, long time ago.
Absolutely.
But yeah, there's just, things you remember, and so, no, it's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty,
Let him go.
moving on. Oh, yeah, go,
Yeah,
please. It's
don't-
school.
don't-
Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely. We have nowhere to be tomorrow morning, but
You can have a fun.
have a good evening.
Have a great evening. Thank
Bye,
you for coming.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Alrighty, moving on.
Awesome.
I'll try to talk quick. Alrighty, moving on. From the Office of the Business Administrator and Board Secretary, under minutes, can I have a motion for B1 through B5, please?
So moved?
Second.
B1 is a motion to approve the public and executive minutes of October 29th. B2 is a motion to approve the budgetary transfers for the month of October. B3 is a motion to approve the treasurer's report for the months of July and August. B4 is a motion to approve the board secretary reports for the months of July and August. And B5 is a motion to approve the board secretary's certification to the Cedar Grove Board of Education pursuant to the code. Any discussion?
No.
No.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Yes.
Mrs. Miga.
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria.
Yes.
Mr. Shoner.
Yes.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes. Under bills, can I have a motion for B6, please?
So moved.
Second.
B6 is a motion to pay the list of bills that were in our packet this evening. Any discussion?
No.
No.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Yes.
Mrs. Miga.
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria.
Abstain from check number 060132, yes to everything else.
Mr. Shoner.
Yes, sorry, I'm going to abstain from check number 060085, but yes to everything else.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes. Under business, can I have a motion for B7 through B10?
So moved.
Second.
B7 is a motion to approve the following for submission of the comprehensive maintenance plan for the 2019-20 school year. B8 is a motion to approve the health and safety evaluation of school buildings checklist for the 19-20 school year. B9 is a motion to approve the subscription busing contract with the parents of the student number listed and the amount listed. B10 is a motion to approve the contract between the American International College for Student Teaching and the Cedar Grove Board of Education for the 19-20 school year. Any discussion?
No.
No.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Yes.
Mrs. Miga.
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria.
Yes.
Mr. Shoner.
Yes.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes. From the Office of the Superintendent of Schools, under Personnel, can I have a motion for S1 through S7, please?
So moved.
Second.
S1 is a motion to retroactively approve Laura Rabunich to provide after-school assistance at Memorial Middle School for the student number listed. S2 is a motion to approve Troy Spinetta, Assistant JV Boys Basketball Coach. S3 is a motion to approve the following CGHS teachers to serve as detention monitors at the rate listed. S4 is a motion to reimburse the following school-based volunteers for fingerprinting expenses. S5 is a motion to approve the following as school volunteers. S6 is a motion to authorize attendance at the following events. And S7 is a motion to approve Nora DeBona, substitute teacher, at the rate listed. Any discussion?
No.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Yes.
Mrs. Miga.
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria.
Yes.
Mr. Shoner.
Yes.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes. Under policies, before we can have the motion, we need to
Yes.
have the policies.
Yes.
Lots of them.
They're in our packet, right? Yep, there we go.
Should have them there. Good evening,
Got 'em.
folks.
Yep.
A special thank you to our board committee members, Mr. Shoner and Mrs. DeChiara. We spent a good bit of time going through this most recent batch of policy and regulation updates. Beginning with 1642, let's jump right in here. Earned sick leave law. Would help if I had the clicker in my hand. As you see here, the BOE may determine some employees who are not eligible for sick leave, those that aren't full-time tenure track, for instance, may qualify for earned sick leave under a new act. Policy and Reg 1642 outlines the provisions of these act. Some highlights include for every 30 hours an eligible employee works, he or she is eligible to accrue 1 hour of earned sick leave up to a max of 40. The board shall permit an employee to use earned sick leave accrued pursuant to the act for reasons outlined in statute, and the board shall retain records and provide notification to employees of their rights under this act. Policy 2431, athletic competition. This policy guide revision addresses participation of homeschooled children in interscholastic athletic sports. Previous to this, our policy allowed children that are homeschooled to participate in high school interscholastic athletic programs. Going forward, we will not. The board believes that such entitlements and privileges are reserved for pupils enrolled here in the district. Now, of course, there are those students that are on our rolls and are enrolled in out-of-district placements, and they are, of course, more than welcome to participate in our interscholastic sports programs. Policy 3159, teaching staff members / school district reporting responsibilities. Policy Guide 3159 has been revised to incorporate a new law. All certificated staff shall report an arrest or indictment for any crime or offense to me, the superintendent, within 14 calendar days of their arrest or indictment. Okay, further, in the event the board determines that a teaching staff member has failed to report an allegation of child abuse, the board is now required to submit a report to the State Board of Examiners outlining their findings. Upon review, the Board of Examiners shall determine if the teaching staff member's failure to report warrants the revocation or suspension of a certificate. Policy Guide 4159, which relates to support staff members, is not affected, as the new law only applies to teaching staff members issued a certificate by the Board of Examiners. Let's talk briefly about policy and regulation 3218, which relates to teaching staff, and 4218, which relates to support staff. Use, possession, or distribution of substances. These guides have been revised to provide a comprehensive procedure with adequate due process for staff members suspected of being under the influence and/or in possession of illegal substances. These revised guides now indicate that in the event the results of a medical examination and substance test are not provided to the superintendent, the board will treat the test as a positive result for substances. This will avoid an issue in which a staff member blocks a laboratory from turning over tests results legally ordered by the district, because doing so will result in the presumption the staff member tested positive. In response to patterns and cases decided by arbitrators under Teach NJ, this is important, there is mounting evidence that progressive discipline should be in place to provide clear notice to staff that their previous conduct was unacceptable. Arbitrators are more supportive of termination of staff members found to be under the influence when the tenured staff member was violated, or has violated rather, a last chance agreement, and this board will be adopting that position. Policy and Regulation 6112, reimbursement of federal and other grant expenditures. This revision basically outlines the process for reimbursement and identifies the $50,000 threshold for submitting amendment applications as more than 10% of the total award. Policy and Regulation 7440, school district security. Alyssa's Law, as many of us refer to it as, requires school districts to equip each public elementary and secondary school building with at least one panic alarm. The new law mandates the panic alarm be directly linked to local law enforcement, capable of transmitting a signal or message to the authorities, one that is inaudible within the school building. We currently have those in place, so we're more than adequately prepared for this new policy and regulation change. Policy and Regulation 8600, student transportation.
I don't think your clicker is working.
Maybe because I have to push it.
One more.
Oma.
There we go.
Thank you. In my attempts to be efficient, I became inefficient. Thank you for that. So student transportation basically relates to revisions that address multiple changes in legislation. Let me just read through this. I'll stick to the script, it's easier. Law requires all buses manufactured 180 days after August 25th, 2018 to be equipped with certain safety specifications. Here are some of those. This law requires school districts to comply with various federal regulations regarding school bus operations. Requires every bus to display signs or legends which will inform other drivers of the law with respect to passing a bus while it is loading or unloading. Also requires the board to place signage on the rear of all school buses, providing school district contact information to the public for reporting misconduct by the bus driver while he or she is operating the school bus. The mandated contact information needs to be for the school district, which is us, for which the school bus provides transportation. And lastly, this law requires the Commissioner of Education to develop regulations to implement this law. The Commissioner of Education's regulations will clarify the following issues for school districts regarding bus driver misconduct complaints, and they are the appropriate official to respond to any such complaints, the appropriate action for a school to take in response to any such complaints, and the time period a school has to respond to those complaints. Policy and Reg 8630, more on bus driver and bus aid responsibilities. These guides have been revised to include a new statute. The new law requires that within 1 business day after the Commissioner of Education notifies the Board of Education that a school bus driver employed by the board has had their bus driver's license suspended or revoked, the board is required to provide a statement to the New Jersey Department of Education that the school bus driver is no longer operating a bus. In addition, the New Jersey legislature recently passed a law that mirrors existing language in a related law. entitled School Bus Driver Training, with one additional section requiring a safety education program be administered twice per calendar year for school bus drivers and school bus aides. Now, we don't employ school bus drivers, so we will make sure that our carriers are following the provisions of these policies. 8670, Transportation of Special Needs Students. Policy Guide 8670 has been updated, changing, quote, disabled to, quote, special needs when referring to students with disabilities. The Administrative Code uses special needs students and students with disabilities and is used accordingly in this policy. Additional details from the Administrative Code were also added to this policy change. Policy 9210, Parent Organizations. Policy Guide 9210 has been updated and is intended to provide guidance to a Board of Education regarding parent organizations and their involvement in the school district. This policy guide has been revised to require the superintendent or designee approval rather than board approval for parent organizations that organize students, sponsor activities, or solicit monies in the name of the school district or a school in the district. Well, why is that? Well, this policy guide has been revised to indicate a parent organization is independent from the Board of Education, and Board of Education or district staff members are not responsible for the activities of a parent organization. The revised policy guide also indicates the representatives of a parent organization must comply in any event with all applicable board policies. And last but not least, 9400, Media Relations. Policy Guide 9400 provides guidelines governing cooperation between media and the school district. The policy guide establishes protocols for school district staff members communicating with the media regarding school business. The existing policy guide requires the superintendent to designate a staff member to communicate with the media regarding school district-related business as a representative of the board. Generally, I will do that. The existing policy guide was not intended to interfere with a staff member's First Amendment rights to speak on their own behalf as a private citizen, of course. This guide has been revised to clarify that a staff member is not required to receive prior authorization from me or my designee to communicate with the media regarding school business, provided the staff member indicates they are doing so as a private citizen.
Does that apply, does this policy apply to like social media also? Or just like media, like the newspaper, or online news?
That's a
or-
good question for our attorney. It doesn't specify the nature of the media relations. I don't see social media mentioned in there specifically, so.
That is a great
We asked the
question,
same
though.
question.
We did it, yeah.
It's a great question.
That's a good question.
I'm just kind of curious as to how far you take it, right? I mean, if people are posting things, you know, could it look like they're acting as an agent of the district or reporting things, or
Do you
if they're
always have
not?
to clarify that you're, as a private citizen, I'm stating this fact?
Right,
It's a legitimate question.
Okay, great.
Ask the
you're
attorney.
gonna get an answer to that, right? Okay.
Yep, great, thank you.
Thank you.
It's actually really good, you know, we talked about that.
All right.
Yeah.
Remember that, where
Thank you
that
very
line
much.
is.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
We have to okay.
All righty.
We didn't do that right now.
Um,
Did we do a motion for this?
no, not yet. We
Okay,
said we
so I
couldn't do
thought-
the motion until,
Oh, that's right, so let's read it, yes, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
yeah. I have just for a second though, policy is S8, but approve the leaves of absence. That's not really policy, is it? That's S9? Should that be, see what I mean?
It's definitely, I do. It's definitely
Okay.
not under policies.
Right,
It should be under superintendent.
stuff, personnel. So how do I do that?
It doesn't really
I
matter.
think you just did it. I think
Alrighty.
you just noted it to the.
You can do it
Yes.
right
to the-
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
put a note.
yeah, I'm good.
Noted.
All right, so under policies, can I have a motion for S8?
So moved?
Second.
S8 is a motion to approve the first reading of the following policies that Mr. Featherman just went over. Any discussion?
No.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara,
Yes.
Mrs. Miga,
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria,
Yes.
Mr. Shoner,
Yes.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes. Under personnel, can I have a motion for S9?
So moved.
Second.
S9 is a motion to approve the following leaves of absence as listed. Any discussion?
No.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara,
Yes.
Mrs. Miga,
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria,
Yes.
Mr. Shoner,
Yes.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes. Just make me want to think on this,
Yeah,
right?
we're just
And like,
seeing if you're
absolutely,
paying
yep,
attention.
exactly, you know? All right, under curriculum, and that's right, can I have a motion for S10 through S16, please?
So moved.
Second.
S10 is a motion to approve the revised curricula for the 1920 school year. S11 is a motion to approve the following new curricula for the 1920 school year. S12 is a motion to approve Andrew Vanderhorn to provide home instruction services at the rate listed. S13 is a motion to approve Christina Pellegrino and her service dog Buster, the golden retriever, to serve as volunteers at North End School for the 1920 school year. That's pretty amazing. S14 is a motion to approve the following paraprofessionals for lunch duty coverage at Memorial Middle School. S15 is a motion to approve the NJ CUSAC District Performance Report for the 1920 school year. S16 is a motion to approve the School Safety and Security Plan for the 1920 school year. Any discussion?
No.
No.
Actually, Mr. Featherman, will you talk a little bit about Buster, the golden retriever,
Yes.
if you don't mind? Because that sounds
Absolutely.
really cool.
Well, you know, am I on here? Apparently I'm on.
We're always
Okay, we
on.
are
Yes.
on. We are always on, 24/7. Well, Alex,
You're not on, but what are you doing?
let's not touch that.
Stop touching that.
Yeah, I'm going to work on that. So as you know, the district is highly invested in social and emotional interactions. And so you could recall from the last meeting that we secured a very similar program at South End School, where we have Abigail, the Labradoodle, coming in.
Labradoodle, right.
And so we wanted to make sure that our folks here at North End have equal access to a therapy dog, a service animal, because we have found such positive reaction to struggling readers that come in contact, that are allowed to read to the dog. You know, it brings down many of our students' anxiety. It quite frankly changes the mood of the building. So we're very excited. Ms. Dyer was thrilled to make this contact, and we're excited to have it here at North End School.
Buster and Abigail.
Buster and
Fantastic.
Abigail.
Any
Love it.
plans for the middle school, or?
Listen, esports and STEM programming is growing like wildfire, and we certainly think that service animals have a place here for us. And we've dabbled in that at the high school with our previous student assistance counselor. Bobby Belandi had her pet come in from time to time, but Bobby had moved on. And so, yeah, I can definitely see filling that niche at the middle school and the high school. Yeah.
Nice. I know at some colleges, they do that. Some of them have actually full-time programs that they bring the animals like all the time, and then others do it at exam time.
They
Which I
do,
think is kinda
it
nice.
brings the stress down.
Yeah, exactly, go pet a dog,
does.
go take him for a walk. No, I think
No,
that's
really,
great.
it really does. They
Yeah.
talked about it up
Yeah.
at the other school.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a few places that we visited that have that.
have the dog.
That I think
Yes.
is just great, so, that's nice.
We're excited.
Very nice. So just out of curiosity, if somebody is afraid of a dog, just because I know somebody's got that question out there, how does that handle?
Yeah, we secure permission slips from everybody.
Okay.
Any students that come in contact. That I'm aware, we haven't had anyone opt out, but certainly if there was, look, not everybody loves dogs.
Right.
Let's
Fair
call
enough.
it what it is.
Right.
Or allergic.
Or
Yes.
maybe allergic, although the animals we use are generally hypoallergenic.
Hypoallergenic.
But you never know. We communicate these programs as we've done for the South End and the North End community, so we've gotten feedback from parents, make sure everybody's comfortable with the program.
That's great. Thank you, appreciate it. And we didn't vote on it.
No, we
So
did
that
not.
was the discussion.
That was
Roll call,
discussion.
please.
Yes.
Mrs. DiChiara,
Yes.
Mrs. Miga,
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria,
Yes.
Mr. Shoner,
Yes.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes. Under contracts, can I have a motion for S17?
So moved.
Second?
S17 is a motion to approve the following contracts for special education students as recommended by the Director of Special Services for the 1920 school year. Any discussion?
No.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Yes.
Mrs. Miga.
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria.
Yes.
Mr. Shoner.
Yes.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes. The meeting is open to the public for comment on items on or off the agenda. Seeing none. Announcement of future meetings, there's been a small change. Instead of meeting on both December 3rd and December 17th, we're not meeting on either of those days. We are going to meet on December 10th.
Right.
And that will be our last meeting of 2019.
Right.
Wow, that's kind of crazy. And that'll be here before you know it. The holidays
it
are
will.
approaching.
Yes.
All right, North End, same place, same time, and all that stuff. Anything further?
I don't think so.
I don't know, that's it.
I think we just need a motion and we're
All
ready to
right.
rock and roll.
The only thing I want to mention is
Oh,
the
sorry.
Cedar Grove Ed Foundation
Oh, yes.
is having their
Yes.
bingo fundraiser at the high school on Sunday, December 8th at 1
December
o'clock. There's information in the Friday folder and also in the middle school email blast that just came out. And it's great, and it's fundraising for the district, and it's bingo. And somebody's got to win, why not you, right? So anyway, December 8th, it's all for a good cause. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Anyone?
Second.
All right, roll call, please. Nobody wants to leave.
Yes.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Yes.
Mrs. Miga.
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria.
Yes.
Mr. Shoner.
Yes.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes, the meeting is over. Everybody have a good evening.